Episode 6 of our Real Talk podcast, and I had finally, after much coercing, been able to get Amber Hill, our Energy Realty's property manager, to join me on a podcast to talk about the subject that everybody loves to hear is property management. Property management is the behind the scenes job of managing a rental property. And I congratulate Amber every single day because, in my opinion, it is the toughest job in the industry. And that's because I know, Amber, that you are the one behind the scenes that something needs to be repaired. So it's like, it's so hard to keep our tenants happy, our landlords happy. But I'm going to kind of go back a little bit and say, we've been doing property management at Energy Realty since I opened Energy Realty 15 years ago. You joined us 3 years ago. Yes, right. Best property manager we've had. But the reason why so many of our clients, since we're such an international real estate company, so many of our clients buy a house. And then one of the main reasons why we manage their properties is they decide that they get relocated and they're not really ready to sell their house. So they ask us to lease it, right? Because you don't want your house to sit vacant and manage it. That's one aspect of it. But that is why, as a broker of Energy Realty, why I decided to do property management, because I knew that these clients needed us to look after the property, and I needed to make sure it was done right, and that not only were we legally protected, but also the landlord was legally protected. But could you, in a nutshell, just kind of say, what, as a property manager, why is it so important to have someone on the other side that understands these leases and that can coordinate all of this stuff, whether the landlord is overseas or in town?
Yes. So I am kind of like monkey in the middle. I am coordinating between the owner and the tenants, and I try to make it as peaceful and easy as possible for both parties. But for owners to have property management, it's nice to have someone who's uh, just dealing with the day to day, fixing the little issues that pop up, maintenance issues. We have lots of good contractors that we coordinate with. So we have lots of good people in your corner helping you deal with day to day so you don't have to.
There, it's like, who do you call? My AC went out.
Yeah.
My plumber went out. And so it really helps me in real estate as well, to be honest, because we have such a wealth of our database of contractors is so amazing. And because we give them so much business, they tend to give us better prices.
Yes.
So what's important for landlords to know is what we do different at Energy Realty is that you're coordinating that, but we don't have an upcharge on those repairs.
Correct. And do not charge a lot of property management does a percentage fee for coordinating maintenance and getting repairs taken care of. And we do not do that here. What the contractor charges is what you're charged, what you pay for your repairs.
Yeah. And my from what I've seen, we did lots of research on the average fees. What is the standard? Like, I mean, I've seen fees, I think, from anywhere from 7% seems to be the lowest of the monthly rent, and it goes all the way up to 15%, right?
This is for maintenance.
For management.
For management, yes. Yes, 7% on the lower end. I feel like 10% is a pretty good average.
Yeah.
For maintenance, not maintenance, sorry, management fees.
So, for example, if you have a property that's $3,500 a month rent, the property management company would charge $350. We charge less than that. Now, we have some properties that are $20,000 a month.
Like, yes.
So on those, I know we tend to negotiate because those fees can be high. But really, for that fee, that is peace of mind for the landlord. Yes. I'm going to use another example because I have a friend who tried to manage the property by herself. She's local. We won't name names here. But there's something about a landlord can get themselves into trouble
Yes.
if they don't understand what their lease obligations are.
Yes.
And or they're either going to get into trouble because they aren't fulfilling their obligations as a landlord, or because the tenant will walk all over them and literally have them repairing something constantly and then even on the move out. Do you have any specific examples of that where you know you were able to save a landlord some money?
Ooh, already can't think of one off the top of my head. Can you?
Well, I know this particular client, well, let's talk about repair deductibles that we try to there's a couple things that we put in our leases that I think really help try to minimize, right? Because that's part of what we're doing for property management is that because we have the resources and because we have the knowledge, we're going to try to minimize the overhead of owning these properties for the landlord. But we put in what's called a repair deductible in our leases. That repair deductible is really there to kind of safeguard and try to discourage, I would say, tenants from asking. And the way I describe it is that these are individual properties. This is not an apartment complex where we've got a maintenance man in our pocket that's there on site and he's there. Up, I need this light bulb change. Up, this thing cracked. Up, we need this fixed. But really try to discourage tenants from calling in a repair request for every little thing that happens at a property because what that does is it drives that cost of maintenance up on the property. And we're really trying to help our landlords minimize that. Yes. So that'd be one.
And another perk of property management is we know what maintenance issues are the responsibility of the tenant. So if I have a tenant calling in for a pest control issue or a light bulb or something to that effect, we know that that is their responsibility and we're happy to send someone out, but that they would be responsible for the charge.
So, can you tell our listeners what are some of the things in the lease that are, without negotiating and taking anything out, standardly a tenant's responsibility?
Tenants are responsible for just keeping the home clean and safe. They're responsible for protecting the home during a freeze. They're responsible to, if you have a water softener, keeping the salt levels correct. They're responsible to report any damage above and beyond things so we can get there quickly. And they're responsible to mitigate any type of damage that might be happening because of a toilet leak or an AC overflow and they're responsible to change air filters quarterly or every 6 months if it's the whole home AC filter in the attic. And they're responsible for replacing light bulbs and they're responsible for quarterly pest control.
And batteries.
And batteries in the go-on batteries. And if it's stated in the lease, then they would be responsible for lawn maintenance.
And lawn maintenance would include watering the grass.
Yes, all of our leases state that that the tenants are responsible to water the grass to keep it in a healthy green condition, um, uh, including foliage and landscaping.
As a as a landlord myself, because I have a few rental properties, it's important to me that those records are also maintained. So end of year, you issue 1099s that they're going to need to give to their CPA. So I've always said one of the beauties of having a property manager is that we're also your kind of your bookkeeper. So it's all in a report that if they ever need access to all of those, because sorry, but not everybody is very organized. At the end of the year, they won't need to scramble. Right. How are you maintaining those records? I want you to tell people about that.
We use a rental software called Buildium. So all owners have an owner portal that they can access any financial report or report on the home. At the end of the beginning of the year, when I send out 1099s, I can also send out a property own statement that goes for the whole previous year, everything that all repairs that were made on the home or any expense that was made. And then also in our software, if you needed more details, all invoices are saved inside of there. All owners have access to all the invoices and any type of documents they might need for their CPA.
That's amazing. That to me, that's a huge benefit. And then the way I explain it, when I got clients that are asking me about property management, what I believe one of the advantages is that We have an online portal that landlords and tenants can log into at any time, and we are 100% transparent. They can see when rents have been received. Yep. So, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. And they can also see when a tenant requests a repair.
Yes.
So that if you had a landlord that, because, we have some landlords that want to monitor every detail, and then we have some landlords that are completely hands off, and basically it's the end of the year when they're looking at everything. But they can actually see when the repair was done, and then they can see right off the bat what that repair costs. And that's an invoice directly from the contractor. They're going to see that's full transparency for me. I don't think there's many places that you get that.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a huge advantage. And I'll give an example. Renters Warehouse. Are they even still around?
I'm not for sure.
Okay, Renters Warehouse was a property management company that came out, and what they promoted was that we'll manage your property for $100 a month. And so we even had a few landlords that said, "Oh, well, let me go try them out." And that's when they found out it was $100 a month, but every time they did a service call, there was a fee for that. So in the end, if you had service calls, then they were actually paying way more than the 7% that we charge. And that's where I think, because we're building trust, we currently manage 85. What are the parameters on that? What are we looking for when we agree to manage a property?
Uh, if you're interested in property management, I always reach out to have a conversation with you. We try to build relationships with our owners, um, just so you know that your property is in good hands. That we're trying to be transparent and make a good transition over into our company. And also with the tenants too, we try to be as communicative as possible, respond as quickly as possible. Um,
Is that call come in on the weekend?
there's calls that come in on the weekends. Like Sherry had mentioned, that we have tenant portals. As soon as something goes in the portal, I'm able to see it. So if it's an emergency, I can take care of it immediately. If something comes in over the weekend that's not an emergency, then I'll deal with it first thing Monday. But uh, yeah, I think building a good relationship with your homeowners, knowing that they have a point of contact, because not all property management is created equal. And so not everywhere you have a point of contact or the same point of contact, whereas
Yeah.
others know they can reach me at any time.
Yeah, and it's about building that trust and knowing, and honestly, we have landlords that are local, and they may even live across the street from the rental property, but they don't want that call on the weekend.
No.
So they would much rather pass it off to you. Plus, there's if you're a landlord and you own the property, sometimes it's harder to say no to a tenant, and sometimes it's harder to say yes. We can go into some of the details. I think it's kind of fun to share property management stories. Well, tell us a story about a situation. I think I can think of one that was terrible. Tell me, give us a story.
Probably.
Yeah, tell us one of your like crazy. Don't say names. Don't say names. Don't yes.
But another thing that we offer here is that we do property inspections. So, 6 months from move-in date, we have it scheduled and we do a property inspection, and then we do it annually from there throughout the lease. So you can see your property, the state of your property, how it's being kept, and if there's any repairs or anything that you might want to go ahead and take care of. But there have been some inspections that were quite scary once we got inside the house.
Sorry, I'm going to say the poop one.
Yes,
Was that the worst one that we had?
that was probably the worst.
Yeah.
And there was just a lot of animal feces everywhere in the home. So we had to send out some lease violation notices, because tenants are responsible to keep the home
In a
healthy and healthy manner. So we did have to address that situation, which was an interesting situation to address, but we got it taken care of. But not not every property management goes into the home while it's being occupied. So it's good to have those so we can just catch some situations and nip them in the bud. Uh,
Valid. And not every landlord realizes that they have a right
yes.
to enter the property. The lease states that the landlord has the right, and tenants always come back and say, "You have to give me 24-hour notice, or you can't let go." And the reality is, I even had one of my tenants, and they were an executive with, I think it was with BP. And the wife said, I just said, I need to come by and get something out of my attic. And she said, no. And I said, actually, I'm being nice.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I actually have a right to enter my property at any time, and I don't have to give notice. And there's a way that we do it where we're being nice about it, but we also have to enforce our rights in the lease, and that's what's important. I need another crazy story. You got to have another good one out there.
Is say you went up one time that called very panics because there was an animal inside the home. He did not know what kind of animal it was,
City boy.
but he was uh, very disturbed. And so I asked him to send me a picture so I knew what kind of service we needed to send to get the animal out of the home. And it was a raccoon, and the raccoon was probably just as scared of him as he was of the raccoon. So I was up in a closet hiding from him.
We tried to get him to scooch it out the door with the broom, and he refused to do.
Well, we said, I'm gonna bring you over and got it out of there same day. It was okay, but yeah, there's some stories that are more humorous than others.
Yes. But also, I think about, when we have a freeze.
Yes.
Right? We have a freeze, and there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to prep people where we're notifying tenants. So that's a great example, because landlords are concerned. And let's say that they're in another country, they know a freeze is coming. Houston is just not really equipped for freezes, right? So we better let them know. So how do you deal with, what are the resources and what are some of the things that you go about to make sure that people are prepared for that freeze that's coming into Houston?
Well, we try to start sending out notices as soon as we know that there could be some adverse weather, just a weather watch at first, saying, hey, this could be happening. Please be aware and looking for updates. And then if it progresses and we know the freeze is for sure, then we start sending out more, reminding tenants of their obligations to the lease. But we also send out emails to the owners, letting them know that we are aware of the freeze and that we are notifying their tenants, and also sending out, if they would prefer, we have vendors that will go and get the exterior of the home ready.
For what, $70?
Yeah, it's not much, somewhere $70 to $100 to go.
And that includes like the faucet covers.
They cover the faucets. They make sure the irrigation is ready, covered and drained. And so if an owner is concerned with the tenant taking care of it, we also provide that service to have it winterized and get it ready.
I remember, again, no names, the landlord that we had that lived in the neighborhood where his rental property was, and he always had that instructional video of how the tenants could drain the irrigation system, and wanted us to make sure that they did it. And in reality, it was always more work to try to explain to the tenant, and tenants don't want to do that, especially with a lot of the renters that we're dealing with. They're oil and gas. The company's paying for their rent. They don't do anything, right? They're accustomed to that. They're accustomed to things being taken care of for them. So to go and say, here's an instructional video, the freeze is coming, we need you to open this valve, do this, and they're looking at you like, what? So that's the funny one, I think, too, because that is the first thing, that irrigation valve, which some people don't even know what that is. It stands about this high above the ground, and it is all pipes. And if it's not insulated, as soon as the weather starts to get warm again, those things bust, and you've got like Old Faithful in your yard, and then water is spewing everywhere. So that's probably the first thing to break, and probably the most important thing that has to be covered.
Yes, for sure.
But what about when the tenant's out of town and it's a freeze? Because like freezes often occur around the holidays. What measures do you take to protect the property there?
And same offer to the tenants as we do to the owners, since it does state in the lease that they are responsible to get the home ready. We can let them know that we have a service that will go and winterize the home and get them ready since they aren't there. Um, and then if we have vacant properties, then we go and we take care of that. And that winterization is a little bit different because we have to make sure the heat's on and the cabinet doors are open since the inside is vacant.
Do you drip the faucets on a vacant home?
Everybody has different opinions on that. I have some contractors that swear by it and some that say no.
I'm going to say I always have an issue. I'm always concerned because I think, oh my gosh, what if there's a clog in the drain and then you go there and you've got 3 days of a freeze and the water's dripping and it overflows. So that always makes me super nervous. So I was just wondering if that. And I think that if the heat is on and the cabinet door is open, then the odds of it freezing.
Yeah.
I do recall, and I can't remember if this is before you arrived, or a property manager, the big freeze that we have where we had power outages all over Houston. That was a nightmare.
Yeah.
That was almost as big a nightmare as Harvey.
Mm.
And we had landlords that are out of the country,
Mhm.
but there was a lot of landlords were upset because tenants had to leave the house because there was no heat and there was no power, so they left the houses, and then pipes busted, hot water heaters busted, because with no power, you had no way to keep the inside of the house heated. How was a nightmare, but I think that, where we had to, hopefully making sure landlords had insurance, property insurance, right? Do they have the proper insurance? I know we asked for proof of insurance, but part of what I know that you're dealing with is the landlords saying, is it the tenant's fault? Or do I have to pay for the loss at this point? And sometimes those losses can be pretty big.
Yes.
But you are mitigating dealing with insurance companies. So when that happens, do you have a situation where there's a big insurance claim that you had to deal with?
I haven't had one personally, but I do always try to. Well, homeowners usually always have the insurance.
Okay, so you've got tenants there. If everything's going great,
Yes.
tenant pays rent on time.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of weird things with maintenance requests or maintaining the property. That's our best case scenario. But every once in a while, you know, that all starts with from the very beginning when they hire energy management. We are going to be involved from the very beginning to do the credit and background checks, which every realtor should be doing. We should never let somebody sign a lease without doing it, but you scrutinize those.
I do.
And we put those in front of you, and we have an extra scrutiny behind it because we don't want to be responsible for a property and then have a problem tenant. So, what are some of the things that you are looking for?
So we run all applications through our system. We check credit, background, eviction to make sure that there's nothing in their history. Their credit is good. They're paying other responsibilities on time. And we also check credit scores, do do a little Google.
I was gonna add. Sometimes we gotta Google that, but they say they are.
Check some LinkedIn profiles, but just try to go the extra mile to ensure, because in this day and age, we do get a lot of uh, fake.
It's become a big problem, especially with AI being able to generate false IDs.
Yes.
Different
Using for somebody else's social security number, and falsifying documents. And so it does kind of make you turn into a bit of a PI.
and skeptic. Yeah, and sky looks fishy.
Mhm. Uh, and some are, better than others when it comes to the falsified documents. Some, as soon as you look at the document, this is not.
But they can falsify. They can falsify proof of income,
Yep. There's a lot.
letters of employment, W-2s. That's it's
That is one part I do is I don't I don't contact the employee contact that they put on their application. I always go to the company, I find the company's contact, I go directly to the source to confirm employment because sometimes the employment contact they put on the application is just a friend.
Yes, very, very true. We never know. They could put a phone number there and they could pretend to be the employer. And so that's very smart of you to do that
Mm.
because we don't get those situations very often.
Yes.
But and usually when we have a situation with the bad tenant,
Mm.
we have an agent on the other side who brought the tenant in and didn't allow us to do the extra scrutiny to make sure that they were okay. I don't mean to make a bad statement, but I really wish that if you hire energy management, let us do the background checks for you. Let us put the extra, take the microscope out, make sure because we've seen it all, and what
We're here to help, not to make it more difficult.
Yes.
I'm trying to help you as well as an agent find a good tenant for your client.
Yes, because if that once that what we know from the property management side, once that tenant gets in there, it's harder to get them out there. I know that you've gotten that call where a agent didn't get property management and now they got a bad tenant in there and they go, "Can you take it over and evict them?"
Yes.
Evictions.
Yeah.
We do it.
We do it, yes. We do help with evictions. We'll file them. I'll go to court um, for you, or if you want to come too, you can. But evictions are not what I think there's a people think evictions mean they're going to get them out and they're going to get their money, and that's not what eviction is. Eviction is removing the person from your property. So once we file, um, it still takes a while for the court system to serve them, to get a court date. Sometimes the tenants, this isn't their first rodeo and they know how to work the system and stay even longer. Um, yes, there will be a court order for them to make payment. Do they ever make payment? Is there ever a collection of it? No, not usually. Eviction is just to get them out of your property so we can get it ready for market and get a good tenant.
And we will handle the eviction, but we don't go pursue bad debt. So the landlord would have the eviction. They could go and file a small claims to try to collect the money, but I can't. Sometimes you're getting blood from a turnip.
Yeah.
Most often the tenant didn't pay because they didn't have the money or they're a crook and they're not never had an intention of paying the money. What is best case scenario? What's the fastest you got someone evicted, and what's the longest it took to get someone evicted?
The longest it took to get someone evicted, it was over 60 days, just because they knew how to work the court system. The court system was a bit different then, and they knew how to work the appeals and work there's uh people in at the court, clerks or that look for your tenant to help them to try to enroll them in these.
They get the free systems, legal advice, and then they learn all of these ways to,
The system.
prolong the process, which should be against the law, if you ask me.
Starting this year in January of 2026, a lot of rental laws changed and it really helped the owner. A lot of the luckily, we've never had an issue with the squatter, but squatter laws changed and eviction laws changed. So now courts have to have a court date set after you file an eviction within 14 days, I believe. Ooh. So it's much better for the owners.
So they're late on the 3rd, you give a 3-day notice.
Yes, you have to have a 3-day notice per Texas property law. If they do not move out in those 3 days, then you would file the eviction. And take
So you could, if the system worked properly, most people that are honest and that are just feeling hard time,
yeah.
they don't want an eviction on their records. So they will just move out peacefully.
Yes.
But someone who is
Working the system.
working the system is going to push it, and then after that, right? Because most often, you go there and it's pretty straightforward. I mean, the judges are pretty straightforward. Did you pay your rent? No, you got to go.
Yeah.
right? And you get all the sob stories. Yes, but this, or sometimes you get someone trying to say, yes, but they didn't fix this, right? So that's when a landlord really needs a property manager on their side because we have the records, right? We've documented everything and we know what our rights are in the lease. Landlords that are not experienced do not know that. Those cases, it's pretty cut dry. You're out. Boom, go, fine. You owe us money. We can keep the deposit so the landlord doesn't have a big loss. But otherwise, that writ, oh, I hate writs.
The judge usually sides in your favor, and then the tenant has a week to file an appeal. And then once that week passes, you have to file a writ of possession. And then the it goes to the sheriff's department. And then you're kind of on their time. So they have to be able to go, they have to serve a 24-hour notice. And then you have to meet the sheriff there with a locksmith. And if the tenant has belongings in there, you have to have movers. You have to have movers to get the stuff out. So it can be a big.
I only recall one time where we had to physically remove belongings onto the road, and it was after COVID, and that guy was a criminal.
Yes.
He used that property for an Airbnb, and his documents came in. Oh, I'm bringing my family in, and I'm a contractor and incomeless there and everything. But that's the only time that we've had to use that.
Yes, and luckily we haven't had to do many evictions.
Yeah.
I think since I've been a property manager, I've only been a part of 3 evictions, and I've been a
That's because you do a great job. High five. Yeah, I see reading those sentences. So I think that this has been, I think you provide so much information. And I think if people want to know more about Amber, we just have to say is a superhero because dealing with tenants and dealing with landlords is not the easiest thing to do. If you want to take it off your plate, Amber, what's the best way for people to reach you?
So we have uh, a link for our website that you can share with any client that you might have that you'd like to share. You can also contact us here. I work out of our Katy location. So the direct number here is 346-307-7464. And also by my email, which is just amber@energy-realty.
Very knowledgeable. Thank you so much. Glad we got her on camera today.